Brentford 2, Tottenham 2. What a way to debut top of the Perch, a Tottenham show hosted by myself, Nick Burt. There's a lot to get into with this game. We're doing this 24 hours later, or actually more than 24 hours later. We're more close to 48 than 24, but kind of wanted to let all this digest, kind of get a feeling of, my overall thoughts, not overreactionary, but like kind of let those thoughts settle in. So we'll take a look back at this game in this episode. These are going to be short recaps. Eventually we'll be branching out into other Tottenham things here. So that is another show that is being added to the repertoire here on Nick Burt YouTube channel. So let's get into this. Brentford 2, Tottenham 2 at the G-Tech Community Stadium in London. A very interesting game to start off the Ange Postecoglou era of Tottenham Hotspur. With 2 goals, obviously. One from Christian Romero in the 11th minute, one from Emerson Royale in the 45th minute, in the 4th minute of stoppage time of the first half. Brentford responded with 2 goals. They had a Mbembo penalty in the 26th minute and a Wissa 36th minute goal, which could have also been a Van de Ven own goal, but they gave it to Wissa. Listen, it's game 1 of a brand new era. Yes, it would have been nice to get a win, but getting a draw, I feel, given the circumstances of all that has gone down this week, a lot has happened with this club in the past 7 days, basically. Coming out with the 2-2 draw when you are on the road against a team that just plays what football we used to play, which is absolutely horrendous fossil football, that is completely dead here in North London at Tottenham Hotspur. Fossil football is long gone. It's a new era of fast-flowing football that actually looks like you're watching football in the 21st century, which is just an absolute miraculous thing, coming from a club that hasn't played that type of football in what seems like 5 years, which it may actually be 5 years. I don't know. Time has, sped up and slowed down at the same time, but very good performance. There are some standout performances that will be noted. There are some performances that did not look good at all. It was an interesting game to say the least. You can tell that this system is being implemented. It's working somewhat. We're not there yet. We don't have all the players that Postecoglou probably wants, but it's showing the start of a new era. It gave positivity for the first time in what feels like forever. I'm actually looking forward to a game next week than, dreading, oh, great, I got to watch this again. 90 minutes of absolutely dead football. But, let's take a look at some of these stats. Some of these stats are just absolutely mind-boggling given where Tottenham were 6 months ago, basically. 70% percentage of possession for Tottenham during this game. That was absolutely unheard of in, Mourinho ball, Conte ball, Stellini ball. We would have been on the other side of that. We would have been one with 30% possession. Just the fact that we had 70% possession, absolutely phenomenal. 18 shots, again, we had games where we had 1 shot the whole game. And, it would be 1 shot on goal and we'd win 1-0. But seeing a double-digit number in the shots category, again, mind-boggling given the football that has been played the past 5 years, what feels like. Just a huge positive. Brentford had 11 shots, which kind of a given normal day for Tottenham. Both teams shared 6 shots on target. Both goalkeepers in their first games for their clubs tested. We'll get into Vicario for Tottenham in a minute because we'll do a full lineup breakdown. shots in the box for Tottenham, 12, 6 out of it. That's another just, like I said, we had like games where there was one shot in total of the whole 90 minutes. So seeing double digits here is obviously not in the out of box, but you don't want to be taking a ton of shots out of the box. So double digits in the box, huge. The expected goals, this kind of weighed because Brentford had the penalty, so therefore the expected goals lean more their way because expected goals is 0.77, I believe, for a penalty. So they had the advantage here on expected goals with 2.22 expected goals against Tottenham's 1.27. Another thing, absolutely unheard of just 6 months ago, 711 passes yesterday for Tottenham. Absolutely mind-boggling number given where they were, and it shows what Postecoglou is trying to build here. Possession-based football with a lot of passings. And if we look at the number under that, accurate passing, 90%, 638. What an outstanding number. Just watching that yesterday was just something just to behold, because you haven't seen it since 2018, maybe 2017. Because I mean, those Pochettino years kind of fell off. After that Champions League final run that was marred by absolutely terrible form in the Premier League, and covered everything up, but that team was playing absolutely terrible football at that moment. 13 fouls for Tottenham, which led to 4 yellow cards. The refereeing was absolutely atrocious in this game. They would blow the whistle on almost anything and everything, and it almost seemed like it was only on Tottenham the fouls were, but obviously numbers show it was almost a dead even. The cards were not, though. Tottenham had 4 yellow cards. Brentford only had 1, and I mean, one of those for each side was assistant manager, so Brentford technically didn't have any players get yellow cards, which there were some questionable ones. Tottenham led with the corners 6-3. Kind of want to go back to the refs because it's always going to be a debate for until the end of time, basically. VAR had a rough decision Sunday for that Brentford penalty. They said Heung-min's son fouled in the box, or fouled a Brentford player in the box, I should say. The Brentford player went into Son and fell down with simulation, as they call it now, which is flopping, basically. No, they didn't call that. They called the penalty on Son, gave Brentford, obviously, the shot from the spot, and they converted. Probably should have never been a penalty because I don't know. I don't know what they're doing anymore. VAR is it's a good tool if it's used correctly, and it's never used correctly. That's the thing. Never, ever used correctly. And I just don't think people understand that, but I don't know. Something needs to be fixed. They said they were going to fix it this year. It didn't get fixed, so I don't know what's next. I'll talk about this in Back in the Net with the Andre Onana VAR call today in the Man United Wolves game that wasn't called a penalty, and it clearly should have been. I don't know. I don't know what VAR is these days, so it's just might as well move on from that. So moving on, I will give my breakdown of each player that played for Tottenham yesterday, including I'll give a review on Postecoglou. It's a 1 through 10 system. I don't do decimals because I think that gets too confusing. So here we go. I will start at the top with Richarlison. I gave him a 5. He did not have a good performance yesterday. He was an absolute ghost out there. Not a great start for him as the starting, striker, basically, because with the move of Harry Kane, he is the only real option there. I think that's something Tottenham have to look into. As we get near the end of this transfer window, that's a big spot that you got to look at. Then we'll go down here. Son, I gave him a 6. His first game as captain. Kind of like Richarlison, just kind of like a ghost out there. He didn't really do much. He ended up getting subbed off in the 75th minute, which some media members made a big deal out of, but I think they just like to make a big deal out of Tottenham because they know it's going to get reaction, because why not? Madison, my man of the match, player of the game, I gave him a 9, which I believe is the second, or it's the highest on here. There's 2 players with a 9 on here. I mean, you can see the other, but Madison with 2 assists today, or yesterday, I should say. He also did get a yellow card, but a absolutely amazing performance, a first performance in the Spurs shirt. His play style is something that we've needed as a creative midfielder since Christian Eriksen left, and he is in that role. And, I don't like to reminisce on things and say stuff like this, but, if Harry Kane was there, that would be just an absolute lethal combination. But he's not here. You got to move on. So, therefore, he just an absolutely outstanding performance. We'll get to the other player that could have also been man of the match with his performance. But Dejan Kulusevski, I gave him a 7. He had a few moments, but I mean, that front 3 of Son, Richarlison, and Kulusevski, they didn't really show up at all against Brentford. And yes, that's kind of worrying, but also it's the first game of the season, so there's no need to overreact. But we got to see what they show in these coming weeks before it's a full-out panic. We move to the defensive midfield, and the other possible player for player of the game is Yves Bissouma. An absolutely outstanding performance, something we didn't see from him under Conte, because Conte might be a footballing terrorist. I don't know. I don't know if he was sent here just to ruin football. But Bissouma, an absolutely outstanding performance yesterday, and I think the whole fan base agreed that was an absolutely outstanding performance. I believe he did actually get man of the match through the Premier League and Tottenham. So, I mean, Madison's my player of the game, but like I said, it could have been Bissouma also. He had an absolutely outstanding performance in that midfield. I'm excited to see him and Bentancur in that midfield once Bentancur is back. But that's probably going to be October, November that it'll be back. So something needs to get figured out with this other defensive midfielder, and that's Oliver Skipp. He gets a 6 for this game. He ended up getting subbed off at the same time as Son. He didn't have a very great game at all. I don't know. He showed some good performance in Barcelona last week, but of course that's a preseason friendly, so you can't really take away much from that. And, I might give Sarr a start on Saturday against Manchester United. That's another big game. I don't know. I think both Skipp and Sarr should be fighting for that spot right now. I don't think Højbjerg is a person that should be in consideration, given that he's also might be moving on. So I don't think he should be getting that spot. And now to the defensive line at the left back position, but I think it's a left wing back technically under the Postecoglou system. Destiny Udogie, another player that could have been man of the match. I gave him a 9 because an absolutely stellar performance from a 20-year-old in his Premier League debut, looking like he's been in the Premier League for 5 years, and he's like 28 or 29. He looks way beyond his years. Absolutely outstanding talent. Highway robbery that we bought him for $20 million 2 years ago. This play, he could have been if he was bought this year, probably would have been a $70-80 million or million pound player. Absolutely outstanding performance from him. I was stunned, honestly. I didn't think he would be that good. He looked absolutely outstanding. I'm very excited to see him continue to develop under this Postecoglou system and see how much better he gets, because I think there's still more there that he can achieve. Then Mickey Van de Ven, his first start, he's only been in training for less than a week. He still gets a 7, even though he may have been an own goal, but you could tell that he's only been in training for a week. But you could also tell that, like, he's there, basically. He can be the other starting center back for this Tottenham team that they've been desperately looking for. I'm excited to see him develop. He's just got to get more training under him, and he will be absolutely outstanding. Christian Romero, he could have had an absolutely outstanding day yesterday. He got the goal in the 11th minute, I believe it was. He gets a 7, though, because he did get subbed off right after that goal, basically, because of a concussion. I'm glad Postecoglou took him off. We know a lot about concussions these days. It can absolutely ruin you. So I'm really glad Postecoglou was cognizant of that, and especially since the goal was off his head, it probably would have made things worse. I'm glad that he got subbed off for his own safety. Would have loved to see him play 90, of course, but obviously circumstances do happen where that just can't happen. So that's the only real reason he got a 7, was because he only played 14 minutes of the game. And then at the right back, but technically right wing back position, somewhere around there, Emerson Royale. An absolutely outstanding performance from him. Got a goal, which I don't think anybody was expecting coming into this game. An absolute belter of a goal, too. Absolutely outstanding. Obviously it was a debate between him and Pedro Porro. Kind of feel like Royale has the upper hand on Porro right now, given the system that Postecoglou plays. Obviously feel bad for Porro, given that he was bought in January, basically for the Conte system. And now it's debatable if he's going to have a spot here. He's obviously going to be a great bench player. I honestly probably would be fine if Porro maybe played, I'll say, a cup game before we move him to the Prem game. Maybe put him in like the Kulusevski spot. Maybe move Kulusevski to the left and then put Son up at striker. I don't know. That might be interesting. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I'd trust Postecoglou, though. I will trust his lineups and what he brings out in the upcoming weeks and months for Tottenham. And then Vicario, I gave him a 6. He just needs time. He looked nervous back there. But, given it's his first game starting for Tottenham, you kind of got to expect that. Moving up from what I believe it was Empoli to Tottenham, kind of a big jump. So I'm not surprised, but he didn't really make any terrible mistakes, though. So he's just got to get more comfortable, and I think he's going to be a great player. Sanchez, who came in for Romero, gets a 7. He put on a decent enough performance for his, what that would be, like 75 minutes-ish, however many minutes he played. He put on a decent performance. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. Sar and Perisic both get 6s just because they didn't really show much. They didn't really have a ton of time on the ball, but that was just because it was the way Brentford was playing. And I gave Postecoglou a 7 for his managerial, plans, because you can see that the development is there. I liked him subbing off Romero because of the concussion. it obviously does show that we still need center back depth. We probably need to sign 1 or 2 more center backs. That would be nice. We need to sign a striker. We probably need to sign wingers too. I mean, if we're honest here, we probably need to sign a winger or 2. I would have liked to see Solomon yesterday. I would have liked to see him and Perisic on both sides, so taking out Kulusevski also. I just would have liked to see how that works. I feel both fit Postecoglou's system better, but it didn't really matter. A draw is a draw, and a point is a point, and every point will be crucial for this Tottenham team this year. So this is going to be it for the first episode of Top of the Perch. Tottenham sit 9th in the table right now. It doesn't matter. It's after match week 1. Next week, it's at home against Manchester United. Much tougher test than Brentford, but will be interesting to see how the Postecoglou system develops as the match weeks go on. After United, it does get a little bit easier with, I believe, 2 promoted teams in a row, maybe all 3, somewhere around there. Actually, no, Luton's not in there, so it's 2 of the 3. And then Bournemouth are mixed in there too. So will be interesting to see how the Postecoglou system develops. Make sure you like and subscribe this video if you stumble across it. If you really liked it, tell people all about it. We will be back for another episode of Top of the Perch very soon.